Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everybody.
And we're already in the month of December.
Oh, it goes fast.
It does. Christmas is almost here. For those of you all who haven't started your Christmas shopping,
I'm probably done. I don't think, I feel like, you know what? I feel like I've started because I bought some nice gifts for people throughout, like in the last month. So I told them that was their early Christmas present.
Oh, okay. Well, I start my shopping in July, so.
I know.
I'm
I want to be like this when I grow up.
I have one more gift to get, so, but now I'm wrapping gifts. That's what I'm doing. So anyway, we have another amazing show for you tonight, and we are giving away 2 books tonight. I want to do a shout out to Tony Benita because she did a video of book packages she received, and she tagged me, and she talked about the book she received last week to her audience, because she has lots of books, and she has people who follow her with all the books that she reads and gets. So thank you, Tony Benita, for the shout out. And the 2 books we have tonight, we're going to give them away after the first interview, but they are Chicken Soup for the Soul. I'm speaking now. This is one of the Chicken Soup books, and this is the one with different stories about Black women. And this author was on the show a while back, so when it first came out. And so this is an actual book. This is an advanced reading copy. This is a teen young adult book, and it's called Figure It Out, Henri or Henry Weldon. It's by Tanita Davis.
That's pretty thick for a young adult book.
It is, but the words are big. It's got big print. So anyway, we're going to give those away. We'll do the trivia at the end of this first interview. But our first guest, we want to welcome to the show. She was scheduled to come on a few weeks ago, and she became ill at work and had to cancel, so we rescheduled her so she could come back. And her name is Jennifer Farmer, and she has a book called First and Only, A Black Woman's Guide to Thriving at Work and in Life. So Jennifer, we want to welcome you to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you so much, Gwen. Nice to be with you.
And you were at the festival, but I didn't get a chance to talk to you. I really didn't get a chance to talk to anybody, but we were glad that you had a chance to mingle and network and sell some books, hopefully. And you got your pictures that we posted on the Facebook page. We're still posting pictures. We had a lot.
Sure.
So do you have a copy of your book you can show the audience?
I can, yeah.
Okay. And I thought your topic and your premise was very interesting.
So yeah, here's the cover of the book, at least the hardcover, and there's a paperback edition as well, and I'll get that at some point.
Okay, and it's green. Isn't the paperback green?
Yeah, actually, this is the paperback version.
Okay, yeah, that's the one that I think I saw you at the festival. Yeah. But it's good to have options because some people like the hardcover of a book as opposed to the paperback, because it's more permanent, more durable, just nicer, especially if you want to give it as a gift. The hardcover is a nicer gift. So now, is this your first book?
It's not. My first book is called Extraordinary PR, Ordinary Budget, and that came out in 2017.
Okay, all right. I do too.
So what is that book about? I mean, I know what it's about, but what do you discuss in that book?
So in that book, I talk about the power of public relations and strategic communications in impacting and influencing change. A lot of times we see corporations and leaders who don't always behave at the level of ethical standards that we would expect. And it's shining a light on that through strategic communications that you can influence and impact change. And so in that book, I walk through strategies for using public relations to influence progress and to influence change. And I look at a number of grassroots organizations and how they use communications to again, change situations for marginalized communities.
Okay, so for your book, First and Only, I like the premise because you talk about how you wrote the book for Black women. That's your first audience, although you had other audiences. You said your second audience is people of faith. And you talk about how you use this one phrase that I've never heard, and it's creative. So I want to give you kudos because I'm a writer too. So I like when people turn a phrase and it really is impactful. And it's where you say that Black women in the workplace, especially when it's a first and only type of situation, can go from pet to threat in the blink of an eye.
Yes, and I want to give credit where credit is due. There's a scholar who wrote about that phenomenon. So I didn't come up with that on my own. There's a scholar who documented what it's like for Black women. We walk into professional situations, we want to put our best foot forward. We work hard. We have a lot on the table. Many of us are caring for ourselves, our immediate household, and probably other people in our extended family and sometimes friend network. So when we go to work with a lot on the line. And, you would think that once you perform well, that you would be applauded. But there are some people who see our progress and who see our success as a threat. And there are a lot of Black women who are navigating, what does it look like to show up in excellence? And then will I be penalized for doing so?
Absolutely. I've said it a couple of times on the show, but my dissertation was actually on the myth of the angry Black woman and how it affects African-American female leaders in the corporate arena. And some of what you're saying is some of what I was seeing in the report in my research, where women they like Black women because they think they're going to be tough. They think they're going to be sassy or what have you. But then when they get there, so often they're punished for those exact same attributes. And so they and sometimes they start to lose themselves because they don't want to be thought of as the angry Black woman. They want to be a part of the team, but they're wondering, how do I do this and still keep myself?
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Rhonda, that's such a very good point. The thing that I talk about in First and Only, there's a whole chapter devoted to anger. And the thing that I talk about is many of us, we are careful to dodge the angry Black woman stereotype. We go to great lengths to dodge that. But the truth of the matter is there are some things that we should be speaking up for, and sometimes we don't because we don't want that label to rest on us. And so even suggesting that a Black woman is angry, I think it can be a manipulative tactic to get us to back down, to be quiet, and to do what's expected of us. I'm also so happy that you pointed out that when there's a problem, there are many organizations who look to Black women to be the mother or who look to Black women to be the defender when there's a problem. And you can direct that to anyone as long as they are external to the organization, but you cannot bring that inside. And so even that contradiction, we want you to speak up for our behalf, but we don't want you to point out things that we could do that would make this workplace healthier and safer for Black women. The other thing that I talk about in the chapter on anger is that sometimes we see a woman and we think that she's angry when perhaps she is just depressed. Perhaps that, anger is, if you flip it on the inside, you can see depression, you can see anxiety, but we are so used to labeling anything that's uncomfortable for us as anger, when sometimes that's not the case. And so what I encourage us to do is to realize that anger is a legitimate emotion. And there are things that should make us angry. But then sometimes when we see someone and we don't understand their behavior, we can't always rush to say this person is angry. You know, maybe maybe they're depressed. Maybe they're navigating sadness, or maybe they just have a different communication style than other people at the workplace.
Or maybe something is just legitimately wrong and they're speaking up.
It's legitimate emotion.
Right. Yeah, they've had enough, you know, and or they could be deep in thought about something else that's not even related, you know. I mean, it could be a variety of things. Well, now, I
found that
go ahead.
I mean, this even happened while I was in the military, because I guess I'm kind of that mother hen, and I wanted to stand up for my soldiers. And when I felt that my team was not being treated fairly, I would speak up. But I was being told that I was being argumentative, and all I was doing was speaking up for my team. And so often that happens is that when a Black woman decides to go against the grain or doesn't subscribe to groupthink, she's punished by being labeled with being an angry Black woman or being argumentative or combative, and that's not always the case.
Exactly. There are times when I felt like most people, there's a binary for Black women. For Black women, the binary is that you go along to get along. You know, that's your option. You don't make waves. You do what is expected of you. You center everyone's needs except for your own. And you act like you don't even have needs. You exist to lift up the organization, to lift up the corporation, and not yourself. You're the martyr. And that's the role that a lot of people are comfortable with Black women. I should also say that sometimes if you have operated in that mindset, when you see another Black woman who defies those odds, there are people who can become resentful of that, you know? So sometimes we deal with issues from the broader culture. And then sometimes if we have not done our own healing work, we can penalize Black women for doing what we ourselves wish we could do.
That's deep.
Yeah. Now I want to just circle back to the concept of the pet in the workplace, because a lot of people may not acknowledge that that's somewhat the approach that Black women get sometimes, is that you're a pet, meaning you're just there to be quiet, comfort, you know, be a companion, not to make waves, you know, like a pet. Don't jump on the furniture, you know. It's like you're expected to just be quiet and not make waves and just be there to support the other people, and really not to be assertive a lot of times. And then once you are assertive, and let's face it, if you're a highly educated, intelligent person, why would you just be silent anyway? You know, you have thoughts, opinions, you can analyze things, you have suggestions, you know, you can lead people. So why would you be silent? But the fact that you are successful becomes a threat to the status quo. And often it's a threat to female counterparts in the workplace who are not African American. I haven't worked for anybody else in a long time, but when I did, that was what I encountered. I was threatening because I was effective, I was smart, you know, I was well liked by the bosses because I was effective and smart, but I was a threat to all the other females at the company, none of whom were Black. So, you know, they try to sometimes, well, in my case, they tried to sabotage me. So, you know, you have to deal with all that. And sometimes you have to demonstrate defiance, you know.
The scholar who did a ton of research on the pet to threat phenomenon is Dr. Keisha Thomas. And she reported on this as early as 2013, possibly earlier. One of the things that she found is that, you know, when Black women come into an organization, sometimes, and other people have talked about it, when Black women come into an organization, sometimes there are senior level leaders who want to support that Black woman. and they invest in that Black woman to a certain extent. As she starts to progress and as she starts to sharpen her skills, then there could be situations where people get threatened by that, and so they pull back and they make her the problem. The other thing that I've experienced personally in my career is you know it, and if you say that you know it, or if you project that you know it, that can be offensive to people. And so there were times when I would have to pretend, or I shouldn't say I would choose to pretend that I didn't know something and consult other people just to curry favor, because I felt like in situations where I did not do that, it was difficult to navigate the workplace. And so I learned that sometimes I would have to pretend that I didn't know something in order to navigate it. One of the things that I want people to take away from this book is when Black women walk into work situations, we are not just doing the job. We're navigating all this stuff that we've just talked about and more. We're navigating what it's like to not be perceived as a threat, or how do you navigate it if you are. We're navigating issues of anger. We're navigating issues of tone. You know, am I too assertive? Am I too aggressive? We're also navigating the politics of hair. There were years when I would not wear my hair natural because I was afraid that I would be penalized. You know, we're navigating politics of body. There are a lot of people who feel entitled to comment on Black women's body. So for us, it's not just the job description that we're doing, but we're handling all this other stuff. And if you're a Black woman and you feel like you get home from work and you're completely exhausted, I know why.
Well, that's really, really interesting, because it is often we're not physically exhausted, we're mentally exhausted because we're wearing a mask the entire day. And I mean, I say we because I've worked in these leadership positions before, and I'm fortunate now that I don't feel that same pressure where I currently work. But there are women who do feel that way, who do feel that they have to kind of hide who they are, just so they can get along in the workplace. Now, my next question is, though, and I don't want to sound like I'm victimizing the victim at all, but do we often feel that, or have you seen in your studies to where Black women will either combat that by trying to go totally opposite to where they almost become indecisive because they're trying not to be considered a pet or argumentative or so forth? And then on the other side of the spectrum, do you see Black women who may try to, okay, if they're going to believe this is me, then I'm just going to play the role, and wind up becoming more, maybe overly aggressive because they feel like that's what's expected of them?
Oh, your sounds off.
When I see Black women who appear to be overly aggressive, I wonder, how did they get there? What are the underlying circumstances and events that push them there? Because a lot of times we don't wake up there unless we're dealing with so much unhealed trauma that is our natural state. But for most of us, we don't wake up there. So when I see a woman and I'm like, okay, wow, she appears to be aggressive, I wonder what happened. What's happening behind closed doors that we aren't privy to? To your question, Dr. Rhonda, I think Black women employ a host of different tactics to survive in workplaces. And the tactics that they choose could be different depending on where they are in their career. There are times that I talk about in the book, there were times when I was shut down. There were times when I would try to lean in. There are times when people would, they do the go along to get along. I'm not going to make any waves. Then there are other times when you fight, you push back, understanding that that's only going to be tolerated for so long. And at some point, if you push back and if you speak the truth, at some point they're going to create a narrative about you that you are not agreeable, that you are difficult, that no one likes to work with you, that there's something wrong with you. We see that happen in individual workplaces, but we also see it happen on the national scale. If you think about the Black women who society really disdains, a lot of them are women who are vocal and women who speak up. That's why, and you even see it in movies, in popular culture. There are movies and they demonize Black women to make the audience feel less sympathetic when something tragic happens to that Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
So you see it in popular culture, we see it in our day-to-day lives, and we see it in workplaces across the country. Black women,
Our former first lady.
Yeah, I mean, and even Vice President Kamala Harris.
Mm-hmm.
The reason the book is called First and Only is because I wanted to say that when you are the first or when you are the only, you go through things that you may not be able to talk about for years. There are things that Vice President Kamala Harris is enduring, has endured, and will endure that she won't be able to talk about. Same way with, former First Lady Michelle Obama. We don't know the half. As vocal as she's been, we don't know the half. What we do know is that this society has not been loving or caring or compassionate towards Black women writ large. So when you find a Black woman who's in a high profile position, I always wonder, what does it take to be her? What are the private battles that she's dealing with? What are the private struggles that she can't tell anyone about? They exist, and a lot of times we won't know them.
Absolutely.
That, and also with Black women who are in positions of authority, as you stated, when you're in a relationship as well, if you have a spouse, or a boyfriend or whatever, you have to be able to also balance that, your emotions in that relationship, because you don't want to be the woman at work, but you have to be at home with your spouse. It's almost like you have to wear 2 or more hats. You have to, a lot of times you have to wear a bunch of hats at work, and then you have to wear a separate hat at home. It's a serious balancing act. It really takes serious acrobatics, emotional acrobatics, and spiritual even, all kinds, and prayer, all of that. It takes all of that. And people do, on the one hand, people can underestimate our abilities, but then on the other hand, they expect us to do everything. We're expected, a lot of times in the workplace, we end up doing 2 jobs that other people, it would be 2 people. Absolutely. But they give us the work that would be for 2 people. Absolutely. Because we're expected to be workhorses, more or less.
Gwen, I'm so happy that you said that, because I've been in so many positions when I have felt like I'm doing the job of 3 or 4 people. If I leave, it's going to take several people to replace me. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's not just a Jennifer thing. A lot of us have been in that position, and a lot of Black women are in that position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that happened to my sister, who worked in corporate. She's retired from corporate now, but where she worked, and if I named the company, you would know it. They kept downsizing, but they just added more work. They eliminated some of the positions, but then they added more work for her, to where she was doing the work of 3 people. By the time she retired, she was doing the 3 times the work that she was previously, before they started downsizing and trying to still make the same productivity with a smaller staff.
I sometimes wonder, when I think about health disparities, when I think about Black women dying at an early age or having a higher mortality with certain types of cancers, I think about the cumulative effect of stress, and not stress, as an adult, but from the time that you're little. I sometimes wonder, if you look at the heart of the average Black woman, what does that heart reveal? Like, what does that heart reveal? Because there's a toll. All the things that we're talking about, there's a toll. It's not just financial. It's not just whether or not you succeed or how long you stay at a place. There's a toll on our bodies. And whenever I see, Black women, and they have so much on their plate, and they're trying to do it all, I just wonder, like, what does their heart look like? Like, if a doctor could look at their heart, would it reflect their actual years and age, or would it reflect much older because of the weight that we carry?
That's a very
that would be interesting. You would have to do an autopsy, but it would have to be like after people had passed, unless you could see it. on like a CT scan or one of those, but you have really given us some food for thought. I would like to, I want to end on a positive. So from your research, from the first and only, what are the hopeful signs that you determined from your, I'm assuming you did research and interviewing people. Is that how you?
I interviewed some Black women, and I spoke from my experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are some of the hopeful things that, because we don't want to leave the audience with it's all bad. We want them to have
actually going to ask the same thing. What is the answer? Because we don't, there are so many women who turn away from going into the corporate arena because of what we're talking about right now. Or
accepting leadership positions, period. I mean, or in government or any. Period.
So what does a woman do if she wants to advance in her career? She wants these higher leadership positions, but she's afraid of the treatment that she may receive, going into those positions. What are some of the answers?
Well, I want to be clear that this is not just resigned to women in corporate America. You go to any workplace where there are Black women and they could tell you stories about how they're treated. So I want to say that first. My book is not just talking to women in Black women in corporate America. One of the things that I talk about in the book is the importance of therapy. And I'm hoping that we aren't afraid to go into therapy at different points, because when you go into therapy, you can get tools to help you navigate a host of situations. And so sometimes as you're in these professional situations, you just need different tools to help you walk through it and to help you become successful. And so I encourage therapy. There is a movement of Black women who are talking about the importance of rest, not just physical rest, and physical rest is a big part of it, but resting from this idea that we have to always produce. That's encouraging to me. Because you hear more and more Black women talking about, okay, sis, rest, stop it. It's not, you don't get an award by saying that you're always busy. That's encouraging. I don't think that we would have had that conversation 10 to 15 years ago, certainly not 20 or 30 years ago. So that tells me that we are thinking about what it means to do Black womanhood differently. I also think that there are more and more Black women who are being vulnerable. And vulnerability is just, finding a safe space and saying, hey, I need help, asking for help, and allowing your community to come and to support you. Stating a problem is not the problem. So bringing this to the surface, that provides hope. If Black women read my book and other books on the market like it and walk into a workplace and say, okay, it's not me, it's not just me, that's encouraging, because we don't need to internalize some of this. And so what I'm trying to say in the book is the environments that we enter, they have to change. And yes, there's always different upgrades we can make on our life, but we're asking more of the environments that we are going into.
Okay, well, that's some good food for thought and a good note to end. So before we go, we want you to show your book again, and tell people where they can get it. It's called
First and Only, A Black Woman's Guide to Thriving at Work and in Life. It's available anywhere books are sold. So anywhere books are sold, you can get it. The hardcover came out in 2021. When this came out, I got a lot of questions about I got a lot of people who asked for a study guide. If they wanted to have a small group conversation, how do they do it? And so the paperback has the study guide. This also has an author Q&A. So this just has a little bit more information than the hardcover. But again, anywhere books are sold, and your audience can stay in touch with me by following me at Jennifer R. Farmer on Instagram, or at PR Whisperer on Instagram and Twitter. PR_Whisperer on Instagram and Twitter.
And we did put your website in the chat, so people will be able to connect with you that way as well.
Thank you. My website is Jennifer R. Farmer. You have to put the R in there, jenniferrfarmer.org.
Yes.
.org, not .com.
.org, yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much. You've really given us some food for thought, and you have brought what many of us have experienced. You brought it to the surface for discussion, and we appreciate that very much. So thank you for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV. Happy holidays and a happy new year.
Same to you. Take good care.
Okay, you
as
too.
well. Thank you for all that you're doing and spreading awareness about this subject.
My pleasure. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we're going to be giving away the 2 books, and we said that we were going to do that before the next interview. So the first book, Chicken Soup for the Soul. This is, I'm speaking now, this is Black women share their experiences. And the trivia question for this book, it has 101 inspiring stories in it. So very inspirational book. The stories come from women in the United States, the Caribbean, and what country. So there's a 3rd place. And the authors' names are Amy Newmark and Brina Clark. You can see the names of the authors at the bottom there. So the first person who answers that question gets that book. And this book is, this is a teen, young adult fiction book. It's called Figure It Out, Henri Welton, or Henry, Henri will be the French
I think it's Henri
pronunciation, Weldon, and is by Tanita S. Davis. And the question for this book is, the main character, Henri, she suffers from what learning disability? So you can, it's a 1-word answer, and you can get the book if you answer that. So our next book, our next, and we'll announce the winners at the end of this second interview. So our next interview is with Caroline Brewer, and some of you may have already seen her book. It's been getting a lot of exposure and publicity. It's a children's book called Say Their Names, and it's in relation to the people who have been killed by police officers over the years, and their names. And the cover of the book is very creatively done, and but it's written on a children's level, and we want to find out what it's about. And we lost Caroline. Somehow we lost her camera.
She was there.
She was there, and now she's not there. So something with the camera. I'm not sure what, but we're hoping to get her back on. It's a 24-page picture book, and it was inspired by her visit to DC's Black Lives Matter Plaza in 2020. So I see that it looks like the camera is
she's
there. Oh, there you go. There you go. We were wondering where you went. We couldn't see you. Okay. So Caroline, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. Can you hear us?
I don't know if she can hear us yet.
I don't know if you can hear us. Can you hear us?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay,
so
all right. Okay,
not sure what the issue was.
You're wonderful.
As long as you're here now, then it's okay. It's all
yes,
right.
Welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. And I was telling the audience about your book called Say Their Names. And do you have a copy of the book with you? Because I was telling them how colorful the cover is, and I love that she's on a little bicycle. And does her bicycle have a little basket on it?
It does. She's got her flyers in her basket.
Because my first bicycle had a wicker basket. I love that bicycle.
Well, Adrian Brandon's the illustrator out of New York. I cannot take credit for anything about the gorgeous illustrations in this book that everybody loves.
Are gorgeous.
But he must have known something about little girls and their bikes. And I was speaking with a group of kids today, and they asked about the bike as well. And I said, well, they said, why is she riding a bike? I said, I think that's the best mode of transportation for a 7-year-old. I said, and the one thing that might stretch your imagination is the fact that she's riding her bike on top of the world. But the truth is, when you do something to spread the word about something as powerful as saying their names, you can expect that message will travel all over the world. So maybe she didn't ride her bike across the world, but certainly the message has gotten out about the importance of saying their names.
Well, speaking of powerful, I think it's also a powerful statement that a 7-year-old is spreading this message. What made you want to use this medium to spread this message?
So I have been working with children consistently for about 20 years, and I find every engagement with them to be absolutely profound. They are so thoughtful, so creative, so imaginative, so willing to take action when they understand that there is a cause that's worth their time and worth their energy. And so when I visited Black Lives Matter Plaza, I went there simply to document the experience and to post something on Facebook or Instagram, and what came out was a poem. And as I began to share that poem with friends and family and started to meditate on it, I began to think about those children that I have known so well for so long. And I began to think about, how are they experiencing this? How are they processing this? How are they feeling? And what are they thinking? And so this little girl came to me, and it, we were seeing that there were children, that there were families who were bringing their children out to the protests. And I learned later that there was a little girl on Long Island who was 7, who was participating. And also the first community loved one who's mentioned in the book is Ayanna Stanley Jones, and she's 7 years old. And I still haven't gotten over the loss of that child. She was living in Detroit with her mom and her grandmother. And I believe there was a cousin also living in the home. And the cousin was suspected of committing murder, I believe. And so the police showed up around midnight, and they threw a smoke bomb into their home, and it caught the couch on fire. And Ayanna and her grandmother were asleep on the couch. And Ayanna caught fire. And so her grandmother was trying to put the fire out when the police came through the front door, and they saw the grandmother and Ayanna moving, and they shot and killed Ayanna.
Oh my God.
So yes, how horrible is that?
Very.
It's something that should never happen. None of these deaths should ever happen. And so just that one story alone is enough to spark outrage and a desire for change. And of course, we saw that happening during the George Floyd protest in 2020. And so I was thinking about Ayanna's classmates, Ayanna's family members, the young people who knew her. How did they handle the news of her death? How did they process that? How, do they heal from that? And so that's why Aaliyah became our heroine, our spokesperson, our leader, who lets us know that she is deeply hurt and angered and troubled by what she's seeing in her community. And yet she taps into the gifts that have been handed down from her ancestors to help her heal and to help her community heal.
It sounds like this was a very emotional project for you.
Oh, it was. Thank you for acknowledging that. Up until the day this book came out, I could never speak about it. And mostly I was speaking to friends and family, but I couldn't speak about it without tearing up and sometimes crying, because, just to recall the stories, to recall so many murders in our community, and to know that none of them ever should have happened, that we are at a place in our country where technology drives our lives, and in some ways it's a good thing. Technology, digital technology is why we're able to communicate with one another today. But yet there's another kind of technology that's always available to us, and that's technology of the imagination. And so my thought is, can we not imagine a different reality for people of color and engagement with police? Have we not progressed enough as a nation, as a society, to imagine another way of being so that innocent people are not shot and killed in the course of police doing what they believe is their job to do? So that's what this book is here for. It's here to challenge us to imagine something better and to work toward that. And I know that those protests, that's what they were about. That's what those folks were saying. That's what we were all saying, that we can do better, that we can imagine a different way of being as human beings in community with one another.
Now, what age level is the book targeting?
So the book is really for all ages. I have a guide for parents, teachers, youth leaders, community members, anybody that wants to discuss the book, that kind of takes you through age levels and what I believe is an appropriate way to talk to children about the book. So for children 5, 6, and under, and I've had parents and teachers and principals reading the book to children those ages. What I encourage them to do is focus on the cover, focus on the images inside, and just get children to talk about what they see and what they think is happening. And that's called a picture walk. And then I encourage them to talk about the power of names, to ask children, do they know what their names mean? How do they feel about their names? And to understand that our names are so important. Our names generally mean our nature. When our parents are thinking about who they want us to be, that's where the name comes from. And then I asked them to think about how they feel when people call their names. It's so nice when someone remembers you and calls you by your name, Gwen, Rhonda, Caroline. And then we know when people sort of sing our names, Gwen, Rhonda, that's an affectionate way to communicate with us. So names are important. And so we want to explore with children, what do they know about their name? How do they feel about it? And then to understand that remembering is such an important part of keeping alive those we love. Right. And I've been in classrooms where very young children have lost people who are really close to them, like grandmothers, mothers, fathers, brothers and sisters. And so these children are 7, 8, 9 years old, and they're having to process such profound loss. And so they need a way to heal from that. And remembering is it's the easiest and the most important way of keeping alive those we've lost in love. And that's what this book is about. Understanding that memory plays an important role in the healing process.
How does the book start? Would you mind reading the first page or a couple of pages?
Oh, of course. I had a
and then
grader.
Show us the picture too.
Of course. I had a 5th grader write to tell me that this was his favorite part. And then I have to share, please remind me to share what another 5th grade girl named Andrea wrote. Again, children are just so thoughtful. Mm-hmm. So it starts out, Mama, Daddy, I want to say their names. Get out the back seat, put a pause on my games, color outside the lines and loudly proclaim love for myself as I say their names.
Beautiful.
I look around, the broken, the battered. I hear the cries of the scorned, the tattered. I feel the angels weep. Feel the angels weep because these lives mattered, and it makes me want to say their names. I hear the storm of Black anger and sound. I feel heavy hearts and itchy feet pound. I see us coming up. I see us coming up. I see us coming up. I see us coming up from the underground. And it makes me want to say their names.
Okay, you know, that's really, now, are you a poet?
I
Or
suppose
is this your
I
first
am.
poem?
I
Is this,
suppose you are. Are you a poet and didn't know it?
yeah, I mean, this,
I
did you,
didn't until I started writing and everything came out as poetry.
okay,
That's what happened with this book. It came out as a poem. And as I continue to read it to family and friends, and again to meditate on what was happening with children, I turned it into a story. But yeah, I have to claim it now. Yes, I'm a poet, and I'm excited to finally know it.
Embrace it. Embrace it.
that's
Because what you
wonderful.
read
Yes,
was beautiful. And I was actually going to ask, is the entire book written in this poetic format?
yes, yes, it is.
Wonderful. And now and then the second part of that is, what do you feel your character's state of mind is throughout? Is she sad? Is she mad? Is she lamenting? Is she excited? What is her state of mind just going through the story?
She's all of those things. You know, when we experience grief and and the kind of grief that comes from knowing that another Black person, unarmed, has been killed by police, we are angry, and rightly so. And we are saddened, and rightly so. And at some point, when we have had the experience of knowing who we are as a people, knowing that when tragedy strikes, we have the power to heal ourselves. We have the power to rise again. We have the power to look within and find the 30-some gifts that I share with children that Aaliyah has. So Aaliyah discovers hope. Aaliyah discovers faith. Aaliyah starts off with proclaiming love for herself. You can't fight for others if you don't love yourself. And so later in the book, we find out why Aaliyah is so strong, why she's so courageous, why she's so determined. And all of those are gifts that are a part of her journey. And what we need to recognize, and the reason I feel this book is so important right now, the stories of those who are being killed by police and brutalized by police in some way or another, or who are victims of racial violence, as Jordan Davis was, those stories are not on the front page of newspapers. They're not the leading stories of television news right now, but they're still happening. And we still have so much work to do. And so how do we find the strength to keep moving, to keep going forward in the face of so much loss? And knowing that we come from a people who know something about hope, who know something about faith, who know something about love, who know something about light, who know something about strength, who know something about agency. Our children are living during a time when they're dealing with school shootings. They're, of course, living through a pandemic or a syndemic, so many crises happening at the same time, climate change. And so we want our children to be strong. We want them to be able to have the coping mechanisms to confront whatever they're faced with. And it's important for them to know that they have agency, that they have the ability to speak to these situations, and they have the ability to do something about them. It's not that every child in the face of police and racial violence needs to go and lead a protest. What I share with children and adults, if you are faced with a situation where it seems so dark, you can be the light. And the moment you enter with your light, the darkness goes away. If you are faced with a situation where there seems to be no hope, you can bring hope to that situation. And all of a sudden, it goes from hopeless to hopeful. If you are in a situation where there seems to be no love, including maybe not feeling love for yourself, you bring that love, and all of a sudden, love fills up the space. So we need to be what we want to see in the world. And we bring that energy, we bring that perspective, and all of a sudden it can change things. And that's what this book is about, saying to children that you have these gifts and you have them so that you can share them with yourself and leverage them to heal from whatever experience you're dealing with. And you have them so that you can share them with one another. You can, with others, you can be someone else's hope. You can be someone else's light. You can be someone else's idea of love. Sometimes, there are people in our lives who don't know what love looks like. And so we can show them. And ultimately, the book is about positive identity. If I could give a gift to any child, and here we are in the season of gift giving, and children are going to be receiving all kinds of toys and devices and, things that may not last very long, and a number of things that they will get bored with by the next day. But to give your child the gift of a positive identity, that's something that they will carry them for the rest of their lives.
And it's so very poignant because, Bakari Sellers was actually at the National Black Book Festival. And during our interview, we talked about young people having a voice. And often we as adults forget that young people have a voice. And so when I'm listening to you talking about how we need to encourage our young people, I think about what Bakari Sellers said when he said, often we as older people just need to be quiet and listen, because just about every major movement that has happened in our country was led by people under 25 years old. Often some of them were teenagers. So if we don't encourage our young people when they are still young, then we're going to stifle their voices. So I believe that this is a very powerful testament toward what he was saying.
Yeah, I have a question about, how did your book come about from going to the Black Lives Matter Plaza and having this poem dropped in your spirit to 2 years later, it's a book? We only have 5 minutes. So just tell us the story of how that transpired.
I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. I've been writing for children for off and on for 20 years. And so my last book, which I published on my own, is called Darius Daniels' Game On. And it's a verse novel about an 11-year-old boy who gets sucked into a video game. There you go. You can see it a little better.
Okay.
And so he goes on this journey to try to get out. And so I found an editor. Her name is Eileen Robinson, and she had worked at Scholastic, but was now freelancing as an editor. So she edited that book. And then she went to work for a publishing company. And she said, Caroline, if you ever have a picture book that you think would work for us, give me a call. So I did. I reached out to her in November, and it was around Thanksgiving, and so we didn't get to connect of 2020. And then I got busy, and she got busy, and then the George Floyd or the Derek Chauvin verdict was handed down.
Okay.
And I remember reading the news and just crying because it never should have happened. And so I was thinking about, well, what can I say? What, I wanted to write something. And I thought, look at this book. So I reached out to Eileen that same night. And the next day she got back to me and she said, we want to offer you a deal. So it doesn't typically happen like that, but that's how it happened this time.
Well, things happen, but see, I tell people here's the thing about luck. You have to be in the position to take advantage of the luck when it comes. And so you had already had the concept, and you had already written the poem or started writing the poem, or you already had something. So when you met this woman who ended up going to a publishing house, then it's all serendipity. So
It really was. Yeah, the time was right.
So, well, congratulations on an amazing project. It's getting a lot of publicity, which is great. And at the right time of year, because it's a good book for holiday gift giving. And so just show the book again to the audience so when they go online to get it, they'll know what it looks like. And it's called Say Their Names. And so the situations in the book where say their names, which names are in there? Some of the more recent instances.
Yes, there's 7 names of women and I think 8 names of men: Ayanna Stanley Jones, Breonna Taylor, Charlena Lyles, Eleanor Bumpers, India Kager, Michelle Cusseau, Sandra Bland, Amadou Diallo, Eric Garner, Freddie Gray, George Floyd, Jordan Davis, Michael Brown, Philando Castile, Trayvon Martin, and Tamir Rice. And I should mention Fred Hampton makes an appearance. And it's really, really,
that list is so long.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many. Here's a Fred Hampton photo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very powerful story about him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, let people know how they can get in touch with you. Reach out to you or connect with you on social media or your website and so forth. Just let people know what those places are. And
okay. On my website is carolinebrewerbooks.com. That's carolinebrewerbooks.com. I am also on Twitter for the time being. We don't know what's going to happen, but it's Brewer Caroline at Twitter, last name first. Same thing on Facebook, Brewer Caroline. And then on Instagram, it's Caroline Brewer Books as well.
Okay. And the book is available everywhere books are sold.
Everywhere.
Including your independent bookstores.
Yes. Bookshop.com is a great way to find independent bookstores. Oprah has a list of Black bookstores from around the country on her website. So look for Black bookstores as well.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV, and congratulations again on the success of your book. And
thank you so much for having me.
Future.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. This was a great conversation. Thank you for what you're doing to encourage our young people to have a voice.
Thank you so much. And thank you guys for what you're doing for Black authors. This is needed and it's wonderful. You're a terrific host. So look forward to watching more interviews.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And you have a great evening. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy holidays to you guys.
Okay. So we need to find out who won the 2 books before we bring on our next guest.
Well, let's see here.
So did we get any winners? We have our 2 books, Figure It Out, Henri Weldon.
Lydia Brew won the Figure It Out.
Okay, and what the answer that she gave was?
Discal, I don't know how to say this word.
I think it's pronounced dyscalculia.
Okay.
It's like calculus. You know, it has that root in there of calculus. Dyscalculia. And that's the mental disability or learning disability, and it's related to math. So that's why I said it has calculus as the root. So Lydia Brew won that one. And Lydia, your book will be on the way. And the other one, we don't have a winner for this one yet, the Chicken Soup for the Soul book. Okay, the question is, the stories come from women in the US. This Chicken Soup for the Soul, I'm speaking now. Black women share their truth in 101 stories. So it's a lot of, the cover is kind of wordy, but the authors are Amy Newmark and Brina Clark, bottom there. And the question is, the stories come from women in the US, Caribbean, and what country? So that's the name of a country that you have to give us. And we'll see who wins that. So our next guest.
Oh, and by the way, if y'all won and I didn't see it because I looked twice and I didn't see it, just go ahead and just comment again so I can know who won. I already put the question in the chat.
Okay.
They be fussing at me, Gwen. You don't know.
Yeah, I just wait on you to tell me who won. So our next guest is, his name is Dwight DeRamus, and he has a very timely and interesting topic. He has a book called Disappearing Dads. And this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I really believe a lot of our challenges, especially with our young men, is because they don't have dads in their lives on a regular basis, helping them navigate the power that's within them with their testosterone raging and then maturing, but they need a dad to help guide them and use it in the right way. So Dwight has a book called Disappearing Dads. It really captured my attention. I wanted him to come on the show and tell us his story about what made him write the book and what gave him the concept for the book. And I don't think, well, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV, Dwight DeRamus. Oh, we need you to unmute. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Now, you were at the National Black Book Festival. I don't think I met you, or I don't think I got to talk to you, or even, I didn't really get to talk to that many people. I said I was working the entire time.
You sure was.
Some people, normally the people that I got to talk to, they were problems. So
well, that's good news then. I guess I wasn't a problem.
No, and those encounters may have been memorable for the wrong reason, but your book title just it just says it all. And to me, it's a really perfect title for the concept that you're talking about. And you are a father of adult sons yourself. So tell us, one, a little bit about your background and what made you write the book, or what brought the problem to your attention. Because when we write books, we write them because something grabs us. If it's fiction, it's a storyline, a narrative. If it's nonfiction, it's a situation, it's a trend, it's a pattern. It's something that's really motivating to inform people or just to highlight it for people. So give us a little bit about your background.
All right, background first. My name is Dwight DeRamus. I am an educator by trade. I taught on the junior college level as well as high school and elementary level. So I'm an educator by trade. As far as in the church is concerned, I serve as a deacon as well as the director of Sunday school. So,
Oh.
so those are the things as far as my background is concerned. Married 27, well, it's 26 years, almost 27 years. On the 16th of this month, it'll be 27 years. And
Okay.
father of two two adult sons. So that's pretty much as far as my background. Now, the second question you asked me is, why this book? Well, what started off was I had no idea I was going to write a book. My grandmother influenced me, my late grandma, she influenced me to write a book. She wanted me to write an autobiography. And I said, Grandma, I'm not famous, so I never thought about writing a book. But then something reminded me that my dad, who's been dead for well over 40 years, that's sort of like birthed the title. I didn't have my father much most of my life, not because he left or anything like that, because he passed away.
Mm.
And it had an impact on me growing up, where the first 18 years of my life, I lived in three different types of households. I born in a two-parent household, and then that's the first 6 years. The next 6 years was a single parent household. And then the last 6 years of my 18 years of my life was a household where my mother remarried again. So a step parent household. So I lived in three different types of family structures in the first 18 years of my life. And as
Okay.
far
So
as
you were 6 when your father passed away?
yeah, I was 6. Right. So that's well over 40 some years ago.
Okay.
And then one of the trends I noticed in this, as each decade, as each time go on from the 90s on, being in school, you have access to student records. And one of the things I noticed is when it says personal contact, there's mom, it's mother, and there's her information, her phone number, and things of that sort. But when you look at the father it's nothing there. And this is in a lot of the cases, almost virtually well over 65% of the cases where you try to do contact, when you try to look up information, student information, there's no father there. So that's one of the things that I know as far as patterns is concerned. And sadly, the darker the skin, the most likely this will happen. I just hate saying that, but it's sad but true. And it grieves me because families is the building block of the nation. Without families, the nation will crumble.
Right. And the nuclear family is in every society is the foundation. Any society, it could be a village of 50 people or a city of millions of people, but that's the foundation of any successful society. And when you get fewer and fewer nuclear families, it may seem like it's not affecting things, but it pops up in other ways, other areas. It pops up in increasing juvenile detention, acting out. It pops up with teen pregnancy. It pops up in gang participation. It affects society, especially the social aspects of society in so many ways, and it's not talked about. It's really ignored, as if it really isn't happening, even though it is happening in front of our eyes. And the ramifications are really profound. But I don't want to tell your story line of your book. Your title that's something near and dear to my heart. That's a topic I've been studying and researching for years myself. And so your book just now, the idea that you is really a metaphor. That missing dad from the forum is a metaphor for the the disappearing dads. And that's really the way that you came up with the title, I'm assuming, was from the dad's name missing in the record. Now, is that because the dad, I guess, is it because the dad is not involved in the child's life. I'm assuming that or the mother doesn't want the dad called if there's a problem, or a combination.
All right, so let's look at it this way. In my book, Disappearing Dads, one of my chapters, the first chapter is called Family Affair. And one of the things that I listed on Family Affair is that there are four reasons why the father is absent. First is death, which is what I shared my story. And death, of course, is unexpected. Death is unavoidable. Death is going to happen to each and every one of us. So death is one of the reasons. The next thing I mentioned was divorce. Okay, and divorce is over 50%, whether you're Christian or non-Christian, it hits everyone. Then the third reason I mentioned is detachment. Just think of a vacant house, okay? The house is there, but there's nobody home. That's the same thing with the detached father. He may be physically present, but he's emotionally unavailable. He does not make decisions. He's not involved within the family. He doesn't do anything. He's just there. Okay, he might go out and work, but as far as involvement in the lives of the mother, in the lives of his children, he's emotionally unavailable. And of course, the fourth one is desertion, where whatever reason, when there's conflict, he just gets up and just leaves his family, and run away from accountability and responsibility. So those are the four things that I mentioned in the first chapter of Disappearing Dads.
That's a lot in just the first chapter.
Yeah, it is. It is, because especially the one about being detached, because there's some fathers or men, they're in the home, but they work all the time, or when they're home, they're not really involved in the children's like after school extracurricular activities. They go to work, they come home, they kind of veg out in front of the TV, or some of them go to work and don't come home. That happens too. On a regular, till late at night, or they're just not actively involved. Now, you as a person whose biological father wasn't involved in your life, because he passed away, where did your perception of being a dad, how did you develop that, your perception and the tools for being a dad yourself when you raise your two sons into adulthood?
I had, my mother was wise enough to have godly men in our lives, which was the key thing. The support system and the support from different situations, when you have young men growing up, it differs from family to family. So my mother had a support system, whether it's her dad, okay, uncle, okay, cousins, that type of things. There's a neighbor down the street, also influenced me as far as going to college, those type of things. So it's really the support system, and it's really not just any men, but as far as men who would at least point you in the right direction, have the right heart for it.
Mm-hmm. So right, because it is important to have the right types of influences, male influence.
And that's what I was going to say as well, is that men have to be kind of a tribe of their own, because often I think men expect women to say this, and then it sounds like fussing, but when another man kind of calls you on it, it's a little bit more powerful. It sounds like, okay, maybe I need to stop and listen because my brother is talking to me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And even with children, I've noticed more, at home and church, but at home, raising children, and at church, working with children, with men involved, children respond differently to a male voice. Mm-hmm. It's a whole different thing. If you're my mom was a disciplinarian, but my dad was I tell people I wasn't afraid of the police. I was afraid of my dad. not, he never whipped us. I mean, we got whipped. We didn't call them whippings. That's what we got. But that was the discipline. But he didn't do that. He didn't have to. His bark was real as a boy. But it's a compliment when you're raising children. You need the nurture and you need the security and discipline of the dad. You need the balance there. And so when you don't get the balance, it's out of balance,
I am so glad you mentioned that. And you're right. Because you can't have too much of one thing, because
right.
As you said, it's out of alignment. And we got a lot of nurturing, but not enough, strength, security, protection, that type of thing. The covering is missing. So yes, the balance is key. And that's why, and I don't care anybody says, it takes two, because I raised, I'm not gonna say I alone raised two sons, but my wife and I, with God's help, we raised our sons. And it's just not easy. I just can't imagine doing this alone. I mean, I've been in that spot for 6 years of my life where my mother had to do it, and it wasn't easy for her. So when I looked, I was like, okay, I'm not doing that. That's out for me. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there for mine. So, and that's one of those things. That's one of those things. It was a driving promise in my heart. It's a burning promise in my heart that I want to make sure that I'm always there for mine. Raise them from the time that they come out of the womb until the time for me to leave this earth. I'm there.
Yeah, my husband went through the similar thing. He didn't grow up with his father at all. There were 12 of them, and it's kind of challenging situation way out in a rural area. But there were a lot of male role models.
Mm-hmm.
That was what he learned from, the Black neighbor of theirs that was the biggest Black landowner in the area. He actually owned his own farm, and he actually hired other Black people. And my husband, as a kid, would ride around with him in his car. The man just kind of took him under his wing. And that's the, like your mom had the situation where there were other men involved, where he learned what a man is supposed to do. And but he vowed his sons, he would always raise his sons and he had two sons. And he was married before. So, but when he got divorced, he took his sons were 8 and 10 when he got divorced, and he got custody of his sons because he said he was not going to have his sons grow up without a father. And so when we got married, they were 10 and 12. They're way grown now. They're way grown now because we've been married 30 years. So, but I helped raise them because my husband had his sons, and that was unusual. When you're meeting people and you meet a man that has sons that he actually has full custody of, that's not common. And so, I had to decide, was it something that I was, willing to do? And I didn't know what I was getting into, I'll tell you that, but it all worked out. I helped him. He would have had difficulty doing it. And he was having difficulty by himself. It's hard raising kids. And without a woman there, women bring things,
Balance, just like you said earlier.
It's a balance. So, he was doing the best he could. And, but he was committed. And, that's commitment is more important than money. I tell people that people get caught up in, and I'll give an example. This is a bad example, but what's his name? The one that just said he had a 12th kid. All those different women. Yeah.
Nick Cannon. Yeah.
Money is not what makes a dad. It's your presence that makes a dad. Yeah, and you can't be in 12 households at the same time. It's not possible. Your 11 kids, or all of them are going to be shortchanged as far as your time and effort. You may give some money, but that's not what children remember. They remember, were you there for my baseball game? were you there when I was inducted in the National Honor Society? You want your parents to be there for you. That's what they remember.
One of the things I mentioned in my book, there's a chapter called Lost Boys, and I'm going to just piggyback on part of what you said is our presence is the best present fathers can give to their children.
That's a mouthful right
there. Now that should be on one of those, how you see those plaques and things people have in their house, in their bathroom. That should be a saying. Or you should put that on some things and sell them. T-shirt or something. That's a great statement.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah. And also you also mentioned that he had custody, again, same chapter, impact the community. 85% of the time, that's not the case. The children are usually awarded to the mother. Right. And I also stated that I never saw a safe community where fathers are not present. I look at Chicago, I'm in Chicago, and I got a chance to visit, got a chance to go down to Houston. Let me explain what I'm talking about. I'm in Chicago, and every single community that's considered poverty-driven or crime-ridden, what's the common denominator?
Right, fathers. The dads are absent fathers. That's why I say it shows up in so many other ways, almost all of them negative. It's not, I know, and we went through this thing in some degree we're still going through it, but where women were saying, well, I don't need a man to raise a kid, that kind of thing. But and things happen, situations happen. It's different when you have a small percentage because every society has deaths, like you say, or situations. And when you have like a 10% amount, that's absorbable. You can absorb that by the village covering or, extended family. But when you had 60 and 70%, you're in trouble. That's
hard
all.
road.
You're in trouble because that's tough. You're going to have a lot of especially young men that are going to be, resort to crime just because they didn't get an education and they need money. I mean, that's just a natural progression. And you're going to have a lot of young ladies that end up having children because they're looking for male attention and love in the wrong places. And they end up with children, and it repeats itself. It's a vicious cycle.
It makes me wonder. It's like all the things you're saying. I talked about that chapter about the girls repeating the cycle. That the chapter is called "Girls Gone Wild."
Okay.
So that's that chapter, and it's just the fact that you don't hardly see daddy's little girl anymore. Or let me rephrase that: it's reduced, and because the father's one of his responsibilities as far as a daughter is concerned is to protect her, protect her heart, protect her body, and he also supposed to be the one who, as she gets older, that when she gets older and grown into a woman, he's supposed to vet the guys that approach her and thinking about whether it's dating her or possibly marrying her. He has to vet the guys because he can see right through. He can see the things that she can't see.
Right.
And
his presence keeps a lot of the bad ones away. If there's a dad at home, we didn't have boys just rolling up on our house. They had to be vetted. They had to come correct, because dad was there and, they knew that, it was an interesting situation. We were at a mall. It's a group of authors that we go out to malls sometimes and we sell our books. And this was recent in the last few months. And we do it on Saturdays. One Saturday, one of the women couldn't come. And so we had a male author that came with his books. Well, he brought his two daughters with him. They were teenagers. I think one was like 14 and one was 16. They were like that, young teen girls, real pretty girls. And so they were helping him at his table. Well, when he would, like he went to the restroom, and there were men, men, some of them were grown men, some of them were teenagers coming up trying to talk to those girls. And when he walked up, he just stood there, and then they backed up. The dad being there says it all,
Mhm.
and they just backed off. Well, it was one, and this girl couldn't, she was the one that was 13. There was a grown a man. He went backwards down the escalator trying to talk to this 13-year-old girl. But the dad was away for a minute, for 2 minutes. But he walked up and he just stood there. He didn't really have to say that much. He said, I'm her dad. These are my books. And they got out of there. It's just it's just so crucial. This has been a topic that's been on my heart for many, many years. Even before I married my husband with the 2 boys. And when I met him and he told me he had 2 sons, I really admired him for that, because that's not common. That shows real commitment.
Right.
If you are gonna do that, you are a committed person. You believe in family. You don't believe in you're not gonna turn tail and run when it's a problem. It says a lot. That just says a lot about the person's character. And it's not common. So. But I haven't read your book yet. This topic I've been studying and reading about it for years.
The father, even if he's not in the household, being in the child's life is very, very important.
It's very important.
I grew up without my dad in the home, but I was at least able to talk with him. I was able to call him and have a conversation with him. My daughter's building that relationship with her dad, but just to have that father, even if things don't work out with the mom, but still have a presence in that child's life is super important. So I think that this is an important book, and it should be required reading for any man who has a child in their lives.
That's true, because that's true. In fact, I have I need to get a copy, because I have somebody I want to give it to, and I'm going to get it for Christmas. I'm going to give it in my Christmas package. I'm going to give it to this person, because I think it could be helpful. And I do want to add, in my husband's case, he had 3 children by his first wife. He had a daughter and 2 sons. So he had to convince his ex-wife she didn't automatically want to give up the boys. She was expecting to have all 3 kids, but he convinced her that he should have. And I wasn't around when those conversations, because I met him after all that had transpired. But he said he had to do several conversations and really convince her that it was for the best. And it was for the best. It's boys and girls are different for different reasons. But anyway, I really applaud you for writing this book and for putting so much thought into it. And show us a picture of do you have your book with you? Show us a picture of the book.
Sorry about it. The
virtual stuff, sometimes it breaks up. But it's called Disappearing Dad.
For you to see it.
Yeah, Rhonda always says that. I forget. Put it right in front of you. And there it is. Disappearing Dad. It's by Dwight DeRamus Jr. And get your copies. And if it's not something that you need, share it with someone who can. And it could be a dad, or it could be a mom, or it could be a growing child. It could be something so people can think about just how important dads are, because we're in a society where society doesn't seem like they treat dads with the importance that they should have. It's like dads are kind of a throwaway. No, they're necessary. You can't, they just are. So, and no dad is perfect and no mom is perfect. So we're not talking about perfect people. We're talking about the fathers being involved in a positive way.
Yes, exactly.
So Dwight, congratulations on your book that you wrote, and people, you can get it. Where is it available? Is it available at at usual places online?
Yeah, yeah, it's on Amazon and a few other places, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, those type of places. Yes, it is.
Okay, and is it on your website?
It certainly is. It's
What's your website?
TreyNicoPub.com.
Oh, okay. Did you put it in the chat?
That's what I was gonna say. The website is in the chat for anybody who wants to reach out to you or to purchase the book. And the good thing is that there are people who were very engaged in this conversation, so you may be getting some sales tonight.
That's good. That's good. I hope so.
And if people buy from your website, do you autograph the book?
I do, and I'll send it to them as well, and it gets mailed out to them as well.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be in touch with you because I want the book that I get to be autographed. So I will be in touch because I want to get it in this Christmas package. So in the next 24 hours, you're going to get an order from me, and I'm going to say who to autograph it to, and then mail it to me so I can get it in my Christmas package.
All right. Well, like I said, you got my information, so I'm not hard to reach.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, and happy holidays and happy New Year to you.
Same to you. Thank you for having me on. I enjoy it. Thank you also, Dr. Lawson as well.
Thank you. You have a great night. And
okay, you too. All right.
Okay. Well, we have our final guest on the way, but I believe we have a winner of the book. I think it was Mary.
Yeah, it was Mary.
Did somebody else give the answer? The answer was Canada, the other country that the women are from. Mary Evans won the book.
Go Mary. Go Mary. Go Mary.
He said last week she didn't try to win because she said
I think she tried to put off answering this week. I think
but
both of them.
She waited until she said, well, if nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to go ahead.
Right.
So anyway, Mary, your book will be on the way. And we have our final guest with us tonight, Rita Williams Garcia. And her book is called One Crazy Summer, but she has other books as well. And this book is a book for, it's for middle grade students, correct? Rita. Oh, we need to do your unmute your mic.
I'm not unmuted yet.
Okay, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
All right now.
All right, so this book is for middle grade students, the One Crazy Summer, but you have other books too.
I do.
So show us what you want to show us as far as your work is concerned.
All righty then. Well, first of all, let me just say, well, thank you all for inviting me to this space, and especially with this selection of authors, because as they were speaking, I was just signifying with every other word. I just felt so much echoing in my own works. Miss Jennifer Farmer spoke about the image of a Black woman and just how her very presence, what she looks like, causes her own her own stress because of how other people perceive her based on that. And the very first book that I wrote was Blue Tights. I wanted to call it Blue Tights Big Butt, but that changed anyway. But it's a story that I think so many girls can relate to. I wrote that first draft fresh out of college, so we're talking some 40 years ago. And it's about a girl who is beautiful in her own right, but she does not know that. All she knows is when she walks down the street, men and boys alike holler at her and trespass upon her, with the things that they say. And so then they make her feel less than. And so as Dwight was speaking about that absence of father, well, that is absent in her life as well. And so she has this kind of reaching out, looking for that male figure, looking for that daddy love, for protection. She wished she would have somebody that she could just, hold herself upright for, because it's her dad, and she better do right, but she does not have that. And so she gets herself into little bits of trouble here and there along the way, and then Caroline was talking, Caroline's book, Say Their Names. Well, that's kind of a running theme, whether I resist it or not. It's a running theme in a lot of my stories. Oh, okay, all of my stories. My characters, there's always something about that name, and I'm always trying to understand, why can't I get away from it? Like, they have their name, but then there's another name. Um, and in fact, in One Crazy Summer, the mother leaves the family. As far as the girls know, it's because she was not allowed to name her last child. And then she claims her own name, a different name than her birth name, as many of us did back in the day. So all of those themes just kind of like wrap their way around a lot of the work that I'm doing, and it makes me feel good, because it makes me say, we're all fighting the same fights, we're all seeing the same things, and we're reaching out to our people and telling stories that have meaning to us. And because the works are being published, it's not just us having conversation amongst ourselves, then other people go, oh, I didn't know this was a thing. Oh, there's a whole lot you don't know. So that's why these books of diversity, these books that tell our stories, are so important. So
Well,
yeah.
I agree with you 100%. And it seems to be a renaissance, and I'm gonna little play on Rhonda's book that she did, her anthology. It seems to be a renaissance in publishing of African-American authors, not so much in the traditional publishing space, but there's so many opportunities to self-publish and do self-publishing well, that thousands of authors are taking advantage of the new technology and the new avenues for distribution and reaching the public.
Oh yeah, as go.
No. I was just saying it could be a good thing and a bad thing, because the road to getting published is so much easier. But I could just throw together a book tonight and publish it at 3:00 in the morning and call myself a published author. It doesn't mean that I wrote well. It doesn't mean that my story is effective. So I still feel like, even though the road to publishing is a lot easier than it used to be, we still have to take time to make sure that we do it well, because we're still affecting the next generation.
Yes, well, I think Caroline Brewer said it well when she was talking about how she was getting her book together, and she had an editor, a freelance editor, go through the book.
Yes.
It is so important. See, it's investing in yourself. It's investing in that hard work, because there's no such thing as, I don't care what you say, Dr. Rhonda, there's no such thing as, I'm gonna type this up and throw it together and I got a book. You are going to sit down, you are going to work, you're going to organize. There will be times that inspiration hits you, and times that you ain't never gonna see, you think you're never gonna see it again. So then you have to dig down deep and just start try to get that process going, and ask those hard questions, and write that book, and then rewrite that book, and rewrite it again and again. So even those of us who self-publish, we are really investing greatly in ourselves, and we're trying to put that work in it. But I also know what you are saying, because see, now I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I didn't self-publish my first book, but I was ready to publish, to do it myself because I was tired already. I wrote that book um, uh, during my final years of college, and then I had 7 years of trying to sell it, and I just could not, even with an agent, I could not sell that book because I just don't think we were ready yet. But editors didn't understand, why is she obsessed with her butt? I don't get it. Why are they looking at her butt and say maybe not her, maybe breasts or face or whatever? So there was so much culture, like just cultural ignorance and unawareness, that even as you brought forth a story that just rang true, it didn't mean that those in the publishing world quite understood where you were coming from and what you were trying to say. And is this a relevant story? Even after Blue Tights was published, reviewers kind of went, well, this is an interesting voice. It's an authentic voice. Is this girl a good role model? There are better books about growing up. So you get those things as well. So going through all of that, I was just kind of like, I was through with writing for children. I wasn't going to do it no more. And I did not want to be edited ever again. So I was going to like self-publish. But let me tell you, one of the things the best thing to happen to me was to happen to my writing career was to go through the Standard Channel and get I sent out a query letter and a sample chapter, and the editor got back to me and said wanted to see more, and then I finally got my contract. But I thought that meant that it was just going to be printed up and I was going to start seeing them in bookstores everywhere. But instead, what happened was that I had to revise. Say what now? I had to revise again. I'm like, I corrected all the spellings and but there were many questions that had to be answered. I had a lot of talent. I'm not going to denigrate myself, but I had a lot of talent, but I had a lot to learn, and I had a lot of bad habits that I had to become aware of. And so that what that editor did for me, and the copy editor, was allow me to go forward with my best foot forward to represent my book. So yes, I think that is very important, but it's also very freeing to know that you have an avenue to publish, because maybe your book does not fit their criteria. This happens an awful lot. Or maybe what you want to do is considered niche. Whatever the situation, you are going to work hard for your book once it's published. And so you're going to do everything you possibly can to get it out there to the public, and to be the voice of that book, and to honor all the hard work that you put into it. So I have real respect for both sides, and I have not ruled out self-publishing. You never know.
Yes. You don't. And as a bookseller, from 1998 until, when did we close? We closed the store in 2010. We were still selling books online a little bit after that. Then we really gravitated more into the marketing to where now that's what we do. But there's a lot more books, just the volume of books now, a whole lot more. And it's because of the ability to self-publish and the self-publishing. The self-publishing books are better than they were in the past.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because people are investing in editors and book cover designers. Right. And there are still a lot of people who just,
okay.
Do what Rhonda was talking about.
Bless their hearts and souls.
I mean, there are people
fairness, I was being a bit facetious when I said that.
No, you really weren't, because I've
No,
met
no, no, we
people,
see
they'll
it.
have like 25 pages and they'll say, look at the book I wrote. And I'm like, that's a pamphlet. It's not a book. That's not. I don't say it to them. I don't tell them it's a pamphlet, but I say it to myself. That's a pamphlet.
But still, you know, one of the, I mean, okay, yes, I want to laugh so bad, but I'm gonna move on now. But one of the things that like there have been these pushes along the way to bring voices of diversity. You had like the multicultural push, which to me really felt like, okay, how can we bring these books written by people of diversity, but to me it felt like it was for consumption of the wider market, of the whiter market. Okay, so you know, and then you had we need diverse books, you know, the whole push on diversity. And I think when that broke, that really kind of opened things up for publishers who were like editors, editorial staff, just kind of weary of trying to justify why this book has to be published. You see, they have to jump through hoops too in order to get your book greenlit, you know. So so the demand, that kind of a social demand and outpour for these books have really kind of helped them do their job, do what they want to do. And so now you are seeing imprints within companies. You have like two and oh goodness, Heartdrum at HarperCollins and Amistad and so forth. As a matter of fact, I was published by Amistad like up until I think fairly recently, but within the HarperCollins family. Right. But and then you have people who go out there and really champion books for young people, voices that you hear, that you even see on television. Let me tell you, some of the greatest thrills in okay, this lets you know what kind of life I'm living, but some of the greatest thrills that I've experienced is turning on the TV and seeing Jackie Woodson or Jason Reynolds or Kwame Alexander, Renee Watson. But I think my favorite of all would be, oh goodness, I'm blanking out, Marley Diaz, the young lady, she started at about 11 years old. Why do I gotta read another book about a dog dying, a boy and his dog dying? You know, I want where are the Black girl books? And so she was on this mission to get these like 1,000 Black girl books. Please, you know, by the time she got finished with us, you know, like there were like thousands of books out there, and then she went running around the world, from Africa, Jamaica, you name it. She was there with bringing books, like, you know, to all of these kids who have not seen these books. So like there's been all of these wonderful pushes all around, but we need more, you know. We need more. I was hearing James Brown singing, I'm a greedy man. We need more. Give me some more. Pass the peas. Where's the books? You know, we need some more.
Well, we need to have it needs to be consistent and not just a boomlet, you know.
Exactly.
So that's one of the reasons, rationales and missions of this show is to talk about books every week. It's not just during Black History Month or
thank you
whatever, you know. Every week is 365 days in the year, and every week we talk about books, and we have 4 guests, and not all of the books are authors. I mean, not all of the guests are authors. Most of them are, but anybody doing something meaningful and interesting in the book industry, you know, it all goes in tandem. We have bookstore owners that come on, and we have book club presidents that come on, and everything you can think of in between. We have agents, and so it all works hand in hand. And a lot of times people hear about things on the show and then they're able to take action. And that's really in whatever way, either buying the person's book or
buy the book. We need that.
Buy the book. That's what I mean. We want to drive book sales. So that's
Yeah. Let me just say something real quick. If you have a family member who is an author, stop asking them for a copy of their book. You go out there and you support them. You go out there and you buy their book, and you just don't buy one copy. You harass the booksellers, the bookstores, and say, "Where's this book by such and such? It's so good." Let's blow up our own people. We can blow up everybody else. We can blow up all these millionaires who already got money. Da 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 da. We need people who are going to be there for our children, writing these stories that take our children like out of where they are and out into their imagination, into their possibilities. And there are so many writers out there doing that, but it is hard out there, y'all. And I just want to tell you, as someone who was very close to being evicted, just before I got the news that One Crazy Summer was a Newbery Honor book. Let me tell you, for most of us writers, we are doing everything to create like from our soul, from what we see out in the world. We're creating truths out there, but it is hard out there, you all. And so our books are there. We are there writing, but we also need you to come out and support us.
And I agree, you shouldn't, to be an author, you shouldn't have to take a vow of poverty.
Exactly.
It should be something that you're compensated for and that you're able to, it's hard to write if you're, if you don't know where your next meal is coming from. Because then
I created my sweatshirt. This I don't know if you saw my Facebook yesterday.
Yeah, but you have to remind me of what it said. I did see it.
Don't pay bills.
Oh, right.
Say it again.
Picked brains don't pay bills.
Thank you. Hello.
Say, can I pick your brain? Can I pick your brain? And you give all of this valuable information out, and then they turn around and go pay somebody else to do what you could have done for them.
Yes.
Well, when those pick brain calls and DMs, I don't even respond. If anybody sent me one that's out there, the reason I didn't respond is because I don't respond to those, because I feel like you're insulting me. You're insulting my years in the profession, my years of toiling. People don't realize, like Rita is talking about, a lot of us who are out here doing this work now, we have missed some meals, or we had to let some stuff stretch.
Speak the truth.
So asking somebody to give something away at this point after they sacrifice, it might seem we don't look like what we've been through. That's because we keep a positive outlook.
Yeah.
But we have earned our stripes.
Amen. Amen. You better preach, Gwen.
Yes.
Amen. Now, I didn't said everything except about One Crazy Summer.
Your book, One Crazy Summer.
Let me just hold it up for a minute.
It's so cute. The cover is so cute.
Look at it in all of its medal glory. And that ain't even all the medals, y'all. We couldn't fit them all on there. So
that is congratulations to you.
Let me just,
we still have a little bit of time. Talk about the book.
Yeah, we have about 5 minutes. So
okay, so let me just tell you, I grew up in the 1960s, and I remember seeing the Black Panthers for the first time, feeling both kind of a wave of pride and also, they got guns. What's going on? So I wanted to write about the Black Panther, like the experience, but not from the teen member or the adult point of view, but from a child who was possibly like around it or introduced to it, because kids were served, they got breakfasts, and some attended schools like the Oakland School or the Liberation schools. And then you have Panther cubs, children of Black Panthers, or siblings of Black Panthers who are in within the movement, but children also participated. They weren't just served, they were of service as well. And so they saw a lot, they experienced a lot. And so I wanted to write this story because it's a history that we don't discuss enough, that we don't bring into the school, into the classroom. And if we're going to talk about it, we're really going to save it for high school, maybe middle school. Middle school, is that what they're calling it now? Junior high. Anyway,
Yeah.
but I said no. I want to talk about it from the point of view of that child that's going in there, getting a breakfast and seeing this and that for the first time, and identifying as maybe Negro or colored, and then going into a totally different kind of environment, and what that means. And so so there we have it in one crazy summer. And the outpour has been tremendous. Teachers are going through for more resource materials so that they can have a background in order to teach this book with their class. But that's not necessary, because the book is about the people, it's about the children, it's about their relationships, and touching on a lot of the things that the other authors have spoken about. But it's a history, it is our history. And not only is it history, but a lot of the social advancements, the social benefits that we have today in communities are courtesy of movements like the Black Panther movement. Yes, Caroline had Fred Hampton in her book. I had the pleasure of meeting Fred Hampton Jr. And speaking to his mother, Deborah, on the phone. And it was just such a kind of a full circle for me, because I remember reading about the murder of his father, and so to be able to touch history like that it's tremendous for me. But it's more important for me to share it, to pass it on, and to kind of leave enough room in there that it's not all slanted one way, but that maybe someone can ask a question, an uncomfortable question, that might not necessarily be favorable to the Black Panthers, but it is all part of the discussion. And we have to trust our children to be able to handle some critical thinking, because heaven knows them kids, they think critically, because when I show up, they got all kinds of critical questions for me. So we have to trust them. They are, our children are so bright. They are so bright. So we can't dumb it down for them. We have to come correct and be ready to respond.
Now, we had one of the original Black Panthers on the show a few months back. I don't know if you know, her name is Regina Jennings. I think
I'm
that's
sorry,
her last
no.
name. She had a book called Panther Poems. And then she had another book. She was there she was a teenager, and she went to California. She wasn't from California. She went there as a teenager. Like, she ran away from home. I can't remember all the details, but
she went to be a part of the movement.
Right, to be a part
Yes.
of the movement when she was a young teenager, like 16 or something like that. So she told us a lot about what you're speaking about. Now, in our remaining 1 minute, I need to make sure people know how to get a copy of One Crazy Summer.
I think all you have to do is, I want you to first go to your local bookstore and ask them for it. Demand it.
Okay. Okay.
If they're not carrying your books, then they are not serving you. Ask them to order it. Ask them to order more than one. I say this for the community, and I say it for me. Mama needs the royalties. No, but
royalties are good.
It's a good thing.
Yes, royalties are a good thing.
it's important for the booksellers to know that if they have these books, that you will come and buy them. Right. Yes, you can get them everywhere, every big box place online, and I'm grateful for that because I do need that. But let's reach out to our local bookstores and ask them to order them, because that's how we keep books and our stories in our communities.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Rita, it's been an amazing interview and an amazing night overall. And you are the closing act, so to speak, for this week's show. And we really appreciate you, and continued success with all of your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. God bless you all.
And happy holidays and happy New Year.
Happy holidays and all the best in the new year. Have a good night.
Okay, good night. Well, that's our last interview for this week. And we have another amazing show scheduled for next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We appreciate you all tuning in, and we will see you next Tuesday on Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.